When you come off at the Maine State Pier, you're almost back in time. Back in time when the slaves used to come off the ships and used to proceed up to the Abyssinian or walk along India Street, then through Newberry Street, up to the, as we know it today, to the Abyssinian. So it's really a walk through time.
You were able to go for the first time since the apartments were put in and stand where the pulpit was, and so I did. And it's like, my God, this is where William Lloyd Garrison stood. You know, this is where the sermons were preached from. You know, it was a sweet moment.
It's important that people know that people had jobs, Black people had jobs, that they, that we, you know, we did everything like everybody else did it and struggled and survived. We saved the only building in the fire.
The Abyssinian Meeting House is the third oldest African-American meeting house in the United States. The fact that it is still standing after being built in 1826 right here in Portland is truly remarkable.
It was really the focal point of the community and a key fabric to the surrounding community, which was the other workers and so forth were the Irish immigrants, Italian immigrants.
It was an area where most of the Jewish people that came over and the Irish and the Blacks all congregated. Everybody got along like as what they were. They were all immigrants. I never really thought much about discrimination.
When you share the story of the restoration, it's amazing how people really recognize the importance of the history.
The building tells a great story. It's a part of the untold story of American history.
It says that Black people in Maine were here very early on, contributing to society.
As history gets lost, once it's lost forever. There are only 3 extant Black meeting houses. One is in Boston. That was the first one that was restored, and that's owned by the Museum of Afro-American History. And then the second one is in Nantucket, which I was involved in the restoration of, and this is the third one.
When self-emancipated persons arrived in the North, they went to the African meeting houses here in Boston or Portsmouth or Portland in order to seek out the community and find a way.
Black people were relegated to the higher levels of the sanctuary. Through their efforts, the people of the community, the free blacks in the community, built this structure in 1826. Basically, I said, first for a meeting house, then developed the church.
Almost all the people involved in the Abyssinian were associated with the Underground Railroad. They had jobs and professions that helped people get from the South to Canada or Europe.
It's doubtful whether people were hidden in the building itself. It's the first place anybody would look. But the members of the congregation were fostering that effort and certainly helping people get to Canada.
One of the important reasons for preserving the Abyssinian Church is the fact that we do have a number of documented instances where major figures in the abolitionist movement gave impassioned speeches there.
Frederick Douglass spoke in the building. We do know that. William Lloyd Garrison, he spoke in the building. We do know that. Several other prominent people were a part of that building.
Well, the building is historically important to locally to the Black community, but also to the total community, not just the Black community, because it's a major part of the history of the city.
The historical significance is one reason to preserve it, but it's also a building that has survived almost impossible odds.
The Great Fire in Portland destroyed 12,000 buildings. and all the wooden structures on the east end of Portland. And this survived because William Ruby, a black fireman, put wet blankets on the roof and saved the building.
It survived the fire, it survived multiple fires, it survived being completely overhauled and renovated as a tenement, and it still is there.
I'm quite sure that the Abyssinian will attract tourism. I look at the Boston Meeting House, and I've heard stories told about how the Asian population are attracted to that building, are attracted to know some of the history. They have quite an active program there, which we intend to bring to Portland.
I think it will become part of a neighborhood that will be much more active in the future.
It is already an interest to the neighborhood. It will be a much bigger interest.
It will be a museum piece which will try to educate the young people as to what the state of Maine was, how it was involved in the Civil War, how the people, great people of Maine, supported the black community.
I feel that they're doing a very good job because they're restoring a building that was so important back in the time and showing the people what it was like.
I feel like history really comes alive when you go inside the building. You see the rooms where everything happened, and you go up the stairs and all the tiny staircases.
And I just see a vision where it's a knowledge center for kids in the community to go to obtain knowledge for the future and the past. It's a great opportunity.
I think the Abyssinian Church will not only educate African Americans, it'll also educate people of all races about the important role that African Americans have played in the development of Portland, Maine.
Well, I think one of the most interesting and exciting things about Portland is it really has a sense of its history and it's a sense of its place. And that's why it's important to save buildings like the Abyssinian.
We're lucky we still have the Abyssinian. Not only was it turned into apartments, of course, in the early 20th century, but there's basically a river that runs under the building.
This building has been let go for so long, and we're trying to get the stabilizing done so that the full restoration work can follow thereafter.
We have a lot of historic fabric to work with here. We are not inventing this building. This building is telling us what it's about, but there are serious structural issues and then interior design issues and how the space is going to be used in the future, all of which is going to need to be funded.
We have an obligation to save the building so that it can tell the story for African Americans in particular.
I think it's critical that support be found for the current effort to preserve the building.
It's urgent right now that funding is given and people support this.
It really is a case of needing to invest in it now, so we'll have it for another almost 200 years.
I have faith that it will be fine no matter what. However, it is important that we move on.
Our schedule is to complete the exterior restoration of that building by January of '09. I think we can do it. I think we will do it.
Giving to this preservation of this community in Maine says that there is a local treasure, that people understand its importance and that they have found a jewel, a building that survived when many others burned down. I mean, this meeting house it is an incredible story. It's the story of the structure and its building and the changes that occurred to it and the community that lived around it is incredible. And as you find a community that affirms this, that embraces this, it says so very much about how wonderful this country actually can be.